Picture this: a single, stubborn crack in the bedroom ceiling, spiderwebbing just above my head as I lie awake at 6:29 a.m., waiting for the inevitable blare of the alarm. It's the first thing I see every morning, that jagged little flaw in an otherwise perfect plaster sky. I'm Lauren, 34 years old, and I've been married to Gregory for 8 years now. 8 years of waking up in this same bed, in this same quiet suburban home where the walls seem to hum with sameness. The alarm hits right on cue at 6:30, a shrill reminder that today will unfold just like yesterday and the day before that. I roll over, catching the faint scent of Gregory's cologne lingering on his pillow as he's already up downstairs. The clink of his coffee mug against the kitchen counter echoing up to me like a metronome of routine. I shuffle down in my worn slippers, the hardwood cool underfoot. And there he is, Gregory, my husband, my constant. He's perched at the table, newspaper spread out like a map of a world I don't quite recognize anymore. His dark hair neatly combed, tie already knotted. He glances up, offers a small, polite smile and says, "Morning, Lore." I mumble it back, grabbing my own mug, the ceramic warm against my palms. We don't talk much over breakfast anymore. It's just the rustle of paper, the soft sip of coffee, and then the hollow goodbye as he heads out the door to his job as a financial analyst. I stay behind, setting up my laptop in the home office, my world as a graphic designer confined to pixels and deadlines. The door clicks shut behind him, and the silence settles in like an uninvited guest. Our life together isn't bad, not by any stretch. It's just predictable, comfortable, like an old sweater you keep wearing even though it's lost its shape. I think back to the early days, when every touch felt electric, when we'd stay up until dawn just talking, laughing over nothing. Now, passion's been replaced by a kind of quiet efficiency. We're more like business partners than lovers, running a household with precision but no warmth. I notice it in the little things. The way Gregory folds his napkin into a perfect square after dinner every night, a ritual so meticulous it's almost mechanical. Or how our evenings pass in near silence, both of us hunched over our phones, the blue light casting cold shadows across the couch. Sometimes I pull out old photos from a dusty album tucked under the coffee table, snapshots of us at music festivals, on road trips, grinning like the world was ours. I stare at those younger versions of us, wondering where that spark went, if it's still buried somewhere beneath the monotony. I've felt restless lately, like I'm pacing inside my own life, looking for a door I can't find. Gregory must have sensed it too, because a few days ago, over a dinner of reheated lasagna, he suggested we do something different, something to shake up the routine. "How about a trip to Midnight Hollow?" he said, his voice carrying a forced kind of cheer. "You know, that Halloween fairground a couple of hours out? It's supposed to be a real thrill." I nodded. Not because I was dying to go, but because it was something, anything, to break the monotony. So here we are now, rattling down a lonely highway in our old sedan, the engine humming a tired tune as the world outside shifts from familiar suburbs to desolate stretches of farmland. The sky above is a bruised shade of gray, heavy with the threat of rain, and the air coming through the cracked window carries a chill that makes me pull my jacket tighter. As we get closer, the fairground looms into view like a dark stain on the horizon. Midnight Hollow. Even the name feels like a dare. The skeletal outlines of carnival rides pierce the overcast sky, and at the entrance, a flickering neon sign buzzes erratically, its red letters spelling out, "Enter if you dare." I feel a shiver that's not just from the cold as Gregory pulls into the gravel lot, the tires crunching over unseen stones. Stepping out, the air hits me thick with the scent of caramel apples and something sharper, like burnt wood. The ground is slick and muddy under my boots, evidence of a recent downpour, and every step squelches as we make our way toward the ticket booth. The sounds of the fairground wash over us, distorted carnival music weaving through the air, punctuated by stage screams that sound a little too real for comfort. Gregory's trying to keep things light, plastering on a grin as he hands over cash for our tickets. "Gonna be a blast, Lore," he says, his enthusiasm sounding more like a script than genuine excitement. I force a laugh, but it catches in my throat as we pass a group of actors dressed as bloodied clowns, their painted grins too wide, their eyes too hollow. One of them waves a fake cleaver in our direction, and I instinctively grab Gregory's hand. His fingers close around mine, but the gesture feels more like a formality than a comfort, like we're just going through the motions of being a couple. We weave through the crowd, the fog machines pumping out ghostly tendrils that curl around the rusted frames of ancient rides, making everything look like it's half dream, half nightmare. We start with something tame, a haunted hayride that trundles through a mock graveyard. I'm not prepared for the jump scare, a figure in a tattered shroud lunging from the shadows, and I let out a scream that's sharper than I mean it to be. Gregory chuckles beside me, patting my knee in a way that feels more paternal than romantic. "Gotcha good, huh?" he says, and I manage a weak smile, though inside I'm wondering why even this shared moment doesn't pull us closer. It's fun, sure, but it's not enough to bridge the gap that's grown between us over the years. After the hayride, Gregory suggests we split up for a bit to explore on our own, maybe meet back at the food stalls in an hour. I agree, feeling a strange mix of relief and loneliness as he disappears into the crowd, his jacket blending into the sea of shadowy figures. I wander aimlessly at first, the eerie atmosphere of Midnight Hollow wrapping around me like a cold embrace. The flickering lights, the distant shrieks, the way the fog seems to cling to everything. It's all starting to get under my skin. That's when I see it. The Ferris wheel, looming at the edge of the fairground, its skeletal frame silhouetted against the murky night sky. Something about it draws me in. A quiet dare whispering in the back of my mind. I decide to ride it, hoping the height might give me a new perspective, or at least a moment to breathe. I step into the cabin alone, the door creaking shut behind me with a metallic groan. The inside is weathered, the red paint on the metal bars peeling in jagged strips, revealing patches of dull gray beneath. There's a faint smell of rust and grease, sharp and industrial, mixing with the damp chill of the foggy night. As the ride begins its slow ascent, the cabin sways gently, a rhythmic rocking that makes my stomach lurch just a little. I grip the safety bar, the cold steel biting into my palms, my breath puffing out in small, visible clouds in the frigid air. The fairground shrinks below me, the lights twinkling like distant stars through the haze, and for a moment, I feel utterly isolated, suspended between the earth and the endless dark above. Then, without warning, a panel in the side of the cabin slides open with a sharp scrape, and a figure slips inside. My heart jumps into my throat as I turn to see an actor dressed as a ghoul, his sudden presence filling the small space with an electric tension. I don't know his name yet, but later I'll learn it's Evan. His appearance is striking, meticulously crafted to unnerve. His face is painted a ghostly pale, with black veins spiderwebbing across his cheeks and forehead, like cracks in porcelain. He's wearing tattered Victorian clothing, a frayed tailcoat and vest that hang off his frame in ragged strips, as if he's clawed his way out of a grave. But it's his eyes that stop me cold. Too real, too intense behind the layers of makeup, burning with something I can't quite place. They lock onto mine, and I feel a shiver that has nothing to do with the temperature. He plays his part with chilling precision, leaning forward slightly, his voice a low growl as he mutters about souls being trapped in the wheel, his words dripping with theatrical menace. I let out a nervous laugh, trying to play along, telling myself it's just part of the act, just another scare in this haunted playground. But there's something about the way he holds himself, the way his gaze doesn't waver, that makes my pulse quicken beyond just fear. As the Ferris wheel climbs higher, the cabin creaking with every inch, we reach the very top, and the ride grinds to a halt. We're suspended there, caught in the stillness of the night, the world below a distant blur of lights and shadows. The fog presses against the cabin, muffling everything, making it feel like we're the only two people in existence. A stray beam from a passing spotlight cuts through the darkness, illuminating his face for a split second, and he leans in closer, too close. His voice drops to a trembling whisper, barely audible over the faint howl of the wind outside. "Greg always wanted you to feel real fear." My heart stops. The words hit me like a punch, confusion and dread flooding through me in a sickening wave. How does he know Gregory's name? My mind races, grasping for explanations, but finding none. I stammer out a question, my voice shaky. "What did you just say?" But before I can make sense of it, his hand brushes against my waist, a deliberate, lingering touch that sends a jolt through my entire body. I freeze, caught between shock and a rush I can't name, and before I can pull away, his lips are on mine. It's quick, reckless, a stolen moment that burns through the fog and the cold, igniting something I thought was long dead inside me. My mind screams to stop, to push him away, but for those fleeting seconds, I don't. I'm lost in the heat of it, the danger, until the Ferris wheel jerks back to life with a grinding screech, snapping me back to reality. He pulls away, his painted face unreadable, and slips out through the same panel he entered, leaving me alone with the echo of his words and the taste of betrayal on my lips. Now, as I stumble off the ride, my legs are shaky, not just from the height, but from the weight of what just happened. I weave through the crowd at Midnight Hollow, the once thrilling chaos of the fairground now scraping against my raw nerves. The laughter around me sounds hollow, the staged screams piercing through my skull like shards of glass. The fog feels thicker, heavier, pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket, curling around my ankles as if it's trying to drag me under. Every face I pass seems to stare a little too long, every painted grin a silent accusation. My mind is a storm of questions, each one sharper than the last. How did Evan know Gregory's name? Was that line just part of the act? A scripted scare meant to unnerve me? Or was there something darker behind it? Did Gregory tell him something? Feed him details to mess with me? And why? Why did I let that kiss happen? The guilt sits like a stone in my chest, heavy and cold. But there's something else there too. A lingering thrill I can't shake. A spark of something alive that I haven't felt in years. My hands tremble as I clutch my coat tighter around me, the fabric rough against my skin, as if it could shield me from the mess I've made. I push through the sea of people, my boots slipping on the muddy ground, the squelch of each step mirroring the churn in my stomach. I need to find Gregory, to see his face, to gauge if he suspects anything, if he knows. My eyes dart around, scanning the flickering lights and shadowy corners, until I spot him near a cluster of food stalls, the smell of fried dough and burnt sugar thick in the air. He's not looking for me, though. He's hunched over something, his broad shoulders tense, standing beside a burly security guard in a neon vest. They're both staring at a small portable screen, the kind you'd see in a back office, its faint glow casting sharp shadows across Gregory's face. My heart thuds harder as I approach, my steps slowing instinctively, some primal part of me screaming to turn back. I edge closer, quiet as I can, until I'm near enough to see what's on the screen. My breath catches, a sharp, painful hitch in my chest. It's a grainy monochrome feed, the kind of footage you'd expect from a cheap surveillance camera, and it's focused on a Ferris wheel cabin. My cabin. There, in stark black and white, is the moment I wish I could erase. Me and Evan, frozen in that damning kiss, the image looping over and over like a cruel taunt. Each frame is a punch to the gut, the silent footage screaming louder than any crowd. I can't move, can't breathe. My eyes glued to the screen as the loop plays again, my own betrayal staring back at me in cold, unforgiving detail. I brace myself, waiting for Gregory to turn, to explode with anger or collapse with hurt. I deserve it, don't I? My mouth goes dry, my hands clenching into fists inside my coat pockets, nails digging into my palms. But when he finally looks up, there's no rage in his eyes, no pain. Instead, his face splits into a slow, unsettling smile, the kind that doesn't reach his eyes, the kind that makes my skin crawl. His gaze locks onto mine, and there's something in it I can't place, amusement, something calculating, like he's been waiting for this exact moment all along. My stomach twists as I stand there, frozen under the weight of his stare, the fairground's cacophony fading into a dull roar in my ears. I want to speak, to explain, to scream, but my throat feels like it's clamped shut. That smile of his, it's a puzzle I can't solve, a mask I can't see behind, and it terrifies me more than anything else tonight. Without a word, he gestures for me to follow him, turning away from the security guard and the damning screen, leading me out of Midnight Hollow and back to the car. The drive home is suffocating, the silence between us thicker than the fog we left behind. I keep stealing glances at him, searching for a crack in his composure, but his face remains unreadable, hands steady on the wheel, as if nothing in the world is wrong. When we finally pull into our driveway, the familiar sight of our suburban house feels like a slap. The porch light casts a weak glow over the neatly trimmed lawn, the same lawn we've mowed together 100 times, but tonight it looks like a stage set, artificial and wrong. I step inside behind him, the door clicking shut with a finality that makes my chest ache. The living room greets me with its usual stillness, the beige couch sagging slightly in the middle from years of use, the framed wedding photo on the mantel capturing a version of us that feels like a lie now. I can still see the grins on our faces in that picture, frozen in time, full of hope and promises we couldn't keep. The room smells faintly of the lavender candle I burned last night, a desperate attempt to mask the staleness of routine, but now even that scent feels tainted, heavy with suspicion. Every corner of this space, once a sanctuary, now feels alien, like I'm trespassing in someone else's life. I can't sit still, can't pretend everything's fine. My hands are trembling as I pour us each a glass of red wine from the bottle on the counter, the liquid sloshing a little as I struggle to keep my grip steady. Gregory takes his glass without a word, settling onto the couch with an ease that unnerves me, as if we're just winding down after a normal night out. I stand there for a moment, clutching my own glass, the stem cold against my palm, before I force myself to sit across from him in the armchair. The distance between us feels like a chasm, wider than ever, and the air is thick with unspoken words. I take a sip, the wine bitter on my tongue, and it does nothing to steady the storm inside me. My heart is pounding so hard I'm sure he can hear it, and when I finally open my mouth, my voice comes out shaky, barely above a whisper. Gregory, did you set it up? Did you arrange for Evan to be there, on that Ferris wheel? The question hangs there, raw and jagged, and I watch as he pauses mid-sip, his eyes flicking up to meet mine over the rim of his glass. There's a beat of silence, a moment where I think he might deny it, might laugh it off as paranoia. But then he sets the glass down on the coffee table with a deliberate, almost theatrical calm, the soft clink of it against the wood echoing in the quiet room. He leans back, folding his hands in his lap, and when he speaks, his voice is steady, devoid of any guilt or hesitation. Yeah, Lore, I did. Evan's an old friend from a local theater group. I hired him to spice things up, to give you a thrill I couldn't give you myself. His words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. I stare at him, my mind reeling, trying to process the confession. He hired Evan. It wasn't random, wasn't some twisted coincidence. It was planned, orchestrated, a performance with me as the unwitting star. My fingers tighten around the wine glass, and I have to force myself to set it down before I shatter it in my grip. I feel the heat rising in my chest, a mix of anger, confusion, and something I can't quite name, a strange, unsettling fascination. Gregory's confession lingers in the air, heavy and sharp, cutting through the quiet of our living room like a blade. I sit there, frozen in the armchair, my mind a tangled mess of emotions as I try to piece together what this means for us, for me. The days following that night at Midnight Hollow pass in a blur, but the tension between us doesn't fade. If anything, it grows, a silent undercurrent that hums beneath every mundane interaction. We go through the motions of our routine: breakfast at the kitchen table, the clink of coffee mugs, the murmured goodbyes as he heads to work. But there's a new weight to it all. Every glance he throws my way feels loaded, every word carefully measured, as if we're both waiting for the other to break the fragile surface of normalcy. I catch myself watching him more closely now, searching for hints of that calculating smile I saw at the fairground, wondering what else he might be planning, what other games he's got tucked up his sleeve. I haven't brought up Evan again, and neither has he. It's like we've made an unspoken agreement to let that moment sit in the shadows, unacknowledged but ever present. Yet, I can't stop thinking about what Gregory said about hiring someone to spice things up. Part of me is furious, feeling manipulated like a pawn in some twisted scheme. But there's another part, quieter but insistent, that's intrigued, maybe even excited, by the idea of diving deeper into whatever this is. What did he mean by giving me a thrill? Was it just about fear or something more? I find myself replaying his words late at night, staring at that familiar crack in the bedroom ceiling, wondering if I'm brave or foolish enough to find out. The thought sends a shiver down my spine, not entirely unpleasant, and I hate myself a little for it. But I can't deny the pull, the allure of stepping into the unknown, of testing boundaries I didn't even know I had. And then there's the memory of Evan, that stolen moment on the Ferris wheel that keeps creeping into my thoughts unbidden. I can still feel the cold steel of the safety bar under my palms, the sway of the cabin at the top, the fog pressing in like a living thing. I see his painted face, those intense eyes cutting through the darkness, and the heat of his lips against mine, a reckless, forbidden spark that burned brighter than anything I've felt in years. The thrill of it, the fear, the rush of doing something so wrong, it's all tangled up in my mind, a knot I can't untie. I should regret it, shouldn't I? I should be drowning in guilt, begging for Gregory's forgiveness, promising it'll never happen again. But I'm not. I stand by that lack of regret, even as it gnaws at me. That moment woke something inside me, something I thought was long buried under the weight of routine and predictability. It's like I've been sleepwalking through my life, and now, for better or worse, I'm wide awake. The days stretch on, and I try to focus on work, on the mundane tasks that anchor me. I sit at my desk in the home office, the glow of my laptop screen casting a pale light across my hands as I tweak designs for a client's project. The hum of the computer is the only sound, a steady drone that usually soothes me, but now it just amplifies the restlessness churning in my chest. My gaze keeps drifting to a framed photo on the edge of my desk, one of Gregory and me from years ago. We're at a beach, the sun setting behind us in a blaze of orange and pink, our arms wrapped around each other, laughing like nothing in the world could touch us. I remember that day so clearly, the salt on my skin, the warmth of his hand in mine, the way we felt invincible together. Looking at it now, I can't help but wonder if we can ever get back to that, or if this dark path we've stumbled onto will lead us somewhere real, somewhere raw and undeniably ours, where the echoes of our past can guide us to a future we can both believe in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.